Night Thursdays with the Top Dog, covering TopDawg's top 10 preview of county games this week. And TD, we got to cover a few out of section teams in our preview again this week, but we want to get it from your perspective, and we'll kind of start right at the top of the list in this week's games, because I think it's very interesting. It'll be the third straight year the Cathedral Catholic Dons will participate in the Honor Bowl. A couple of games before them, Notre Dame and Desert, J. Sarah and St. Joseph's of New Jersey, if you're heading up that way. But Chris, last week, the Cathedral Catholic got it done against La Costa Canyon, 42-9, and I believe you owe Logan Barron's some pancakes.
I do. I went on Twitter and I said, Logan, if you get 5 pancakes this game, I'll give you a gift certificate to IHOP. And I put out the film today. Logan hit me up, DM me, sent me his film, and said, "Hey, TD, you gonna make good on your word?" Well, I am a man of my word, so I owe Logan Bergens a gift certificate to IHOP. I think he finished with 12 pancakes in that game.
He should have to share with that entire offensive line. They just had a monster day. I think that's why, for all the talent on that team right now, Cathedral Catholic gets that #1 rating. I think mainly because that offensive line right now looks like it's going to be a big year.
Absolutely agree. Now, the interesting game against Saguaro, I know that Cathedral played him last year. They played him, I think, last year was the first year they played him. This is a different Cathedral team. I think they're more balanced. I think they're actually maybe stronger than last year's team. They have a little bit more depth. They've got a lot of linemen, so they're going to be able to rotate linemen in and out during the course of the day and during the course of the game. I actually think Cathedral goes out and beats Saguaro in this game.
Do you think that's a bit of an upset, considering Saguaro? We know, 4A champs again last year, 6 years running. They drubbed some teams 63-0 last week, ranked in the top 10, maybe nationally, certainly #1 in the state of Arizona. This game will be played, by the way, and on broadcast on NFHS Network, if you can't make it out to Manchester Stadium. But do you think it's a bit of an upset if Cathedral does win, despite being at home?
Listen, I'm never, ever going to bet against a San Diego team. Nobody comes in our house and makes us pay rent. Is that an upset? No. You're coming to our house at the Dons in San Diego in the Honor Bowl. That's not an upset. We should win this game.
That is a marquee matchup, and one that people are going to keep an eye on, I think, around the nation. #2 in your poll, Saints. They hold the spot again after their win, 37-7 over Bonita Vista. 4 sacks by the defense, and Cardwell, 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. I saw Eastlake last week, Chris. They didn't do much offensively, but neither did their opponent. Still, Eastlake came up short, 17-6 at Steele Canyon. Mateo Law had a big, long run, but they really didn't do much after the first quarter.
I like Saints in this game. I think that, the interesting storyline is, last year's Eastlake team, their quarterback was Richie Comanero. Well, in the offseason, many people know Richie left Eastlake, went to St. Augustine. There's got to be some bad blood there. Everybody knows that. But Saints has got D1 guys all over that team. You got Cardwell. You got Malcolm Williams. You got Tyson McWilliams. You've got Ambexter, probably the best tight end in the county. You've got dual threats in both of those quarterbacks. You got Sam Skate, one of the best wide receivers in San Diego. There's too many dudes on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, not to mention Connor Heffler, one of the hardest hitters in San Diego on the defense. I don't see how Eastlake's going to be able to hold down all those players. I think this one might get a little ugly. I'm probably going to say 42-17 Saints.
Yeah, they're probably favored by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Interestingly, Eastlake's quarterback this year is another Comanero, no relation. I read that in Jim Lindgren's.
Do you know where he went to high school last year?
Tell me.
St. Augustine.
No, that is just too weird.
So one of the kids left Saints and went to Eastlake. The other kid left Eastlake and went to Saints.
With the same name, they could have just switched jerseys and no one would know.
Yeah, but there's no relation.
No relation. Okay, that's so weird. I wonder if Jim put that in there. Okay. Anyways, Helix, they got the win over Cajon, and they had to earn it. They were behind. Big story here, Chris. Fato Noah, he's going to set the all-time Helix rush record on his first or second carry of this game. He needs just 13 yards to beat the great Reggie Bush. This record kind of snuck up on us. Helix maybe was keeping the stats.
Well, hold on. It didn't sneak up on everybody. If you remember, before week 1, I put out the graphic, and so did KUSI's Prep Pigskin Report, telling everybody, listen, this kid's at 4,600 yards. You better keep an eye on this. Now, the Noah family in itself. I mean, you've got Ezekiel Noah, who's a linebacker up at Boise State. You've got Fado, who's at Helix right now. There's another Noah coming after him. Listen, there's something they put in the water over that house. I talked to the linebacker coach, Coach Noah over there at Helix, and I mean, that guy raises football players. Hardworking. I'm super proud of Fado. I've known him since he was a little kid, and I couldn't be happier for the young man for all his success. I mean, he got to play his freshman year with his older brother at Helix. That was pretty cool. And he's just done a great job of taking that team, putting it on his back, and making it his own the last 4 years. Congratulations. Fado, you deserve all the accolades you get, young man. Super proud of you.
Chris, I'll also toot your horn. You mentioned last week Helix's up-and-coming freshman running back, and he went out and scored 7 touchdowns in the freshman game. So you definitely saw that one coming too, I'd say. Great.
I watch a lot of football. Listen, everybody wants to send me the tweets. Quit sleeping on me. Listen, guys, I don't sleep but maybe 2 to 3 hours a night during football season. So if you want to DM me, slide in my DMs on Instagram, on Twitter, wherever. If you're not on my radar, go ahead and hit me. I watch anybody's film. I love San Diego football. I love this community, and I'm proud of all our players. I got to make one more plug. Greatest character football, guys. Those are 3 things I care about. Got to have all 3.
And Helix certainly a more than a 2-touchdown favorite probably against Herriman. Herriman actually already has.
A couple years ago when Herriman came down, I got to say, I was super, super impressed with that team. I think they got off the bus, and it was the first in my life I think I'd ever seen a 6'2" Polynesian cornerback up live and in person. I was shell-shocked at the amount. Herriman comes strong. I see them roll off the bus. They're going to have 130 kids coming down off that bus. They usually have 2 offensive sets. They roll out in different sides of the ball. This is not a cakewalk. Helix must be on their A game to win this game. If they let Herriman stay close in this, Herriman could win this. I'm going to take Helix. But turnovers and special teams, that Helix has got to clean up that special teams. You can't make early mistakes against a Herriman team or you will lose.
No, you cannot. They barely made up for it in that Cajon game. The 2 kickoffs that were fumbled at the beginning of the game gave Cajon a short field. They only capitalized on one of those. I will mention, though, that I think the Helix side could be the one getting the turnovers this week. I see them possibly intercepting Herriman. Coming up also now this week, El Camino and Lincoln. Wow, turn back the clock on this one. Chris, how about Lincoln last week? Their 2 quarterbacks combined for 337 yards. But El Camino, they got to be live here at least in this game at home. Joey Armentrout, 322 yards passing. Jordan Wilkins, 8 receptions, 132 yards in their opener. Wildcats with a chance?
Well, I'll say this. Wildcats did great last week against Point Loma, and they have reason to be excited up there. I think they're a bubble team. Not sure if they make the open, how far they get in D1 playoffs. To me, this game is going to come down to the trenches. Both teams have great skill position players, great quarterbacks. They're not going to turn the ball over a lot. But the key player in this game to watch is Tina Samoa. If Lincoln's offensive line can contain Tina Samoa and keep him off their quarterback, Lincoln's going to win this one hands down. If Tina Samoa gets in that backfield and disrupts the passing game and the rushing game, there could be an upset. Not big on upsets this week. I'm going to take Lincoln, but I think this is going to be a lot closer than people think.
Well, we mentioned Oceanside last week, and they had a tough opener. They dropped out of your poll, but probably just they were up against a very top opponent. But nice to see El Camino back making a little noise as well. So going to be some exciting times for those 2 longtime rivals. Okay, let's move on to number 5 right now and take a look at the Torrey Pines Falcons. They won 36-10 last week over Los Al. Connor Helfnich, right?
Yeah.
He had 2 touchdowns rushing. They rushed 39 times last week in the win. San Clemente was the one. We mentioned Oceanside. It was San Clemente that beat Oceanside 35-13. So both teams 1-0.
I just say right now, first of all, I think I'm impressed with Gladnick did with Torrey Pines Falcons and Gladnick did to Los Al last week. That was a very hard-fought game, and they didn't just go out there and beat them. They beat them handily. Torrey Pines, in my opinion, should win this game. I think that the defensive line is going to need pressure on their quarterback. If you give that kid time in the pocket, he's going to tear apart that secondary for Torrey. Not super high on the secondary for Torrey Pines. They've yet to prove that they're gelling as a team. But I will say this is going to be a close one, too. A low-scoring game. I think that Torrey Pines is going to control the clock, run the ball out a lot. I think this one come down to a late touchdown. I think Torrey may be losing going into the fourth quarter. At home, they're going to take it out there, score that winning touchdown. They get the W. I'm going to go 21-16. I say 16 because I think San Clemente is going to go for a 2-point conversion and get it. So I'm going to go 21-16 in a weird football score this week.
Well, Torrey Pines probably expected to win that game. They're top 35-ish in those computer rankings, and San Clemente top 70-ish or so. So got to go with the Falcons certainly at home. All right, number 6, Carlsbad. They're going to have to travel to play Long Beach Millikan. Carlsbad in the top 40 in the state computer polls, and Long Beach Millikan not even in the top 100. But certainly I think that Millikan is going to be a formidable opponent. I'll tell you about them. They have Keanu Campbell Caldwell, 300-yard game last week. They beat Carson 29-28 on a last-minute touchdown after they trailed in the game 21-7. We know Carlsbad, nice performance. Ryan Schmidt, 2 TD runs. They beat Hart Newhall last week.
Well, I'll say I was very impressed with them beating Hart. Hart is typically a very well-coached program. Their defense, they're coached very well. They play fundamental football. I think their coach is sitting on 297 career wins. Very impressive the way that Carlsbad handled that game. My favorite player in that is probably Dylan Quinn, great young man. And I'm going to go and say that Carlsbad is going to go on the road and make Millikan pay rent in their own house. Carlsbad wins this one.
And they should. Going on the road does make it a little bit more difficult, but certainly I think Carlsbad should win. And how about the Steele Canyon Cougars? Chris, I have concerns with my other East County team. One of the East County teams in your top 10. The Cougars finished with just 99 yards of total offense last week. But, man, it was all about the defense for these Cougars last week. On our show on Monday, we had Viliamu Ahu Morse, Rugby Morse, they call him, just because that's easier. But he had a big game, 3 sacks and forced a fumble. Junior Akintunde recovered a couple of fumbles. Antoine Walker, several pass breakups and a TD reception. Good performance by Steele Canyon. They beat Eastlake, but, man, they've got to find a way somehow to stop Keontae Springs. 360 total yards and 6 touchdowns in the win last week.
So I'm big on Steele Canyon. I think they're one of the sleeper teams in San Diego County. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about their defense. Offense puts up points, but defense wins championships. With that said, I don't think they have an answer for Keontae Springs. This kid puts up over 300 yards rushing his first game back against, pretty good defensive team in Rancho Bernardo. If Madison wants to make it back in the top 10, this is a statement win for them. I'm going to go upset here, and I think Madison knocks off Steele Canyon.
Well, I'm not going with that great minds think alike. I did pick Madison on that show, just kind of maybe to provide any motivation I can from the East County perspective there. Steele Canyon certainly a little bit ahead in the rankings. I think even the computers might show them edging out Madison even on the road, but that is going to be a very, very tall order for sure. Let's take a look at number 8, Mission Hills. They fell several spots in the poll, but they were playing a tough opponent last week against Palos Verdes. So again, now they got to go on the road and face Westlake, number 28 in the state. The Warriors, pretty good program. Another tough game. Mission Hills maybe. Let's not say they may be 0-2 out of the gate. They're underdogs in this game.
I always like a good underdog, and usually I don't take a team. I always go with the hometown team of San Diego, but this one's interesting. Last week they could have actually beat Palo Verde. I thought Palo Verde was a one-dimensional team. I thought the matchup was really well. It was favorable to Mission Hills, but there were turnovers, special teams play, some penalties, and a little bit of uneasiness within the actual team. I don't think this team's gelled yet. I don't think they're buying in everything yet. I still think they're kind of on the ropes. You can't be that way heading into a game against a 28th-ranked Westlake team. I don't see Mission Hills winning this game, unfortunately. I think they'll hang in there. First half, it'll be close. I think in the second half, the travel, being up there, I think it's going to get to Mission Hills, and I think they get tired. I think actually Westlake comes out 35-21, and unfortunately, Mission Hills starts 0-2 to begin the season for the second year in a row.
anybody can't make that trip, that one also is on the NFHS network or catch the highlights on the PPR. But yeah, no doubt. I think for Mission Hills, when I heard you kind of passing over earlier in the week, your top 10, you wanted to keep them up there high, but you just thought that so many of our top 10 teams may have overachieved or impressed enough to pass them. I don't want to say
but the bottom line for my top 10, and I've said this all along, you got to win to stay in. And if you don't win the big games, I can't put you in the top 5. I can't keep you in the spots. Everybody wants to argue strength of schedule. Listen, I don't play for participation trophies. To me, you play the games to win. The teams that were sitting below Mission Hills all won the big games that they played in. So naturally, those teams are going to move up. And if you lose, you're going to drop back. Now, here's the interesting part. If they lose this game, they probably are going to drop out of my top 10.
Yeah, but plenty of room to work back in there, depending on some of these teams. And welcome to the Granite Hills Eagles, Chris. I got to toot the horn for the East County team here a little bit. Junior quarterback Justice McComb, QB1. He pushed all the right buttons.
That's my guy. I love that kid.
He pushed all the right buttons in that win over Poway. It was the second straight year the Eagles beat the Titans by exactly 4 points, but consider this year was on the road. Last year was at home. Both games ended in a Hail Mary. McComb had 252 yards, and he rushed for the key 5-yard touchdown with 1:53 to play. The Eagles actually had to come back. They fell behind 21-10, but these guys right now, you're debuting them in the top 10 here in week 2, but your guy, Ethan Bishop, on defense. Junie Edwards, Junie Harris, he scored a pair of touchdowns. And senior receiver James Johnson had 9 receptions, picking up where he left off last year. Sun Devils edged visiting Valley Center by 1 point in their opener. Ty Virgin had a big play on special teams. Eagles won last year by 18 points. They should probably do it again.
It's pretty cool. You look around the county, and, we had TopDawg's Elite this year. We brought the top 100 players in to look at them. We got to evaluate all these different guys. And one of the guys that popped off the screen, obviously, was Ty Virgin. Not many people knew about him coming into the senior season. I think he's one of the most underrated players in San Diego. I love him out there. Him and his brother share the running back field in the backfield. With that said, I'm not betting against QB1. This game is at Granite Hills with QB1 behind there. You got, is it Journey? Not Journey. The running back, Junie Smith. Junie Edwards.
Richard Junie Harris.
Junie Harris, my bad.
Yep.
Sorry, Junie, my apologies. TopDawg messed up your name. I think he's a hell of a player, too. I actually see that this one's probably not going to be as close. I'm going 28-14, Granite Hills.
Yeah, and what's your upside for McComb? He's just a junior. Granite Hills has had 2 good quarterbacks come through, but there were different kinds of quarterbacks, guys who kind of take off running a little bit. McComb, he might have a little bit more leeway to stay in that pocket.
Well, I'll tell you this. You say that until you see him in the laser. So we had him out of TopDawg's Elite this year. Did you realize the kid ran a 4.7 laser? So he's an RPO threat. So, if you think you're going to drop back and cover 4 and let him get that RPO, that's going to be a mistake. I think later in the season, Kellen's going to open that up a little bit more and use some of the RPO stuff. We did see a little bit last week, but I think they're going to utilize that even more later in the season. They don't want to give it too early because they don't want a lot of teams to see a lot of film on that. But I will tell you that kid is definitely a dual threat quarterback. I wouldn't just say he's just a pocket passer. I think he can do both.
And I'll just say, Chris Smith looking out for those Granite Hills Eagles. Number 9 in his poll, also number 9 in the KUSI poll, but the media at the UT poll has them outside of the top 10 right now. So
that's because you have all that North County bias up there, man. They just want to keep you in the North County love. Listen, I'm all about San Diego County. I'm going to look at the best teams out here. I don't have bias between the City Conference, South Bay, North County. I go all over San Diego. And to me, I'm going to give you a fair shake no matter where you play, what level you're at. If you're one of the top 10 teams, you're going to get seen.
And fair enough here because Otay, they're number 10 in the media poll and number 10 in TopDawg's top 10. And you put them in there based on that 28-24 upset over San Marcos last week. You thought San Marcos might be able to overcome the home field advantage, but Otay did a great job and have earned your spot as number 10.
So let's talk about a little bit last week's game. We'll talk about Otay as well. Then we'll talk about the Valley Center game. I was rooting, and I know this is probably biased, but I was rooting for San Marcos. I really wanted San Marcos to come in there and show a good game plan, show that they were focused, win one for the new coach. Nobody wants to start the season, 0-1. But after the game against Lincoln, I felt like maybe there were some question marks about some of the play calling, or kids really bought in. So there was a little bit of fracture there. I think you saw that in the second half. I mean, San Marcos is up in that game, and that kickoff return for Otay Ranch changed that entire game. And if you're in that stadium, you could feel kind of that the wind came out of their sails. You felt like this breath where everybody was like, what just happened? And they let Otay Ranch back in that game. And what happens when you let a home team back in? They punch you in the mouth. Otay came out with the win. So, and the idea that if you win, you're in, Otay Ranch takes San Marcos' place, and now they're in my top 10. And San Marcos, sorry guys, you're out. Now, back to the Valley Center game.
Yes.
That's a long travel to go from Valley Center all the way down to, Otay Ranch. I don't think that Otay Ranch has enough athletes to run with Valley Center has enough guys to run with Otay Ranch. I think the big win against San Marcos last week really gave Otay Ranch a lot of confidence. I think they're playing well right now. I think Otay Ranch actually runs away with this one. I actually predict this might even be a blowout. I'm going to say 42-7.
I think just, seeing them reach this point in the polls at this time of the season, big news for Otay Ranch. Let you have the floor a little bit. I'll mention some of the teams that you had on your bubble this week, and maybe you can comment and see who you might think might break through. Certainly Madison, if they could get their win over Steele Canyon, LCC, Oceanside, Eastlake, San Marcos still has to be considered. San Diego, Grossmont, El Camino, Olympian, Vista.
Okay, so let's start off. I mean, right now my bubble team, the number one bubble team is probably Madison. They went out last week, and they played well enough to be in the top 10, but it's some people are saying it's a down year for Rancho Bernardo, so it wasn't a convincing win. This week is crucial for them. If they do go out and beat Steele Canyon, I actually think they're going to jump not just in the top 10, but they're just outside the top 5. Keontae Springs and Herman Smith give them a dynamic running back. If their secondary can play well, they could play spoiler for a lot of teams that are trying to get to the open division, especially in the Western League. So they're probably my number one bubble team. San Marcos, listen, at this point, they've got an uphill battle. It's like climbing Mount Everest at this point. I mean, to get back in those good, to get back in the top 10, they're going to have to make not only some wins, but some statement wins and put up some big points on that board. I'm kind of starting to get off the train of believing that this team is a championship team. With that said, I think a lot of teams this year in the Avocado League are down, and I think that the South Bay and the City League are starting to play better football. One of those teams that made an impressive big win last week, of course, it was against a Division IV opponent, obviously with San Diego High. Mo Jackson is an unbelievable running back. In my opinion, he's probably one of the top 3 running backs in San Diego. He single-handedly put his team on his back and carried that team to another win. They've got some interesting choices in some of the positions down there, but they've got great coaching at linebacker, great coaching on defense, great coaching in the secondary, wide receiver. So they've got a good core of kids that are really bought into what Charles James is doing down there. San Diego sits just outside of my top 10, and that's only because they're a Division III team. They were in Division I or Division II. I think they get more consideration. The other team I think is really underrated is Kearney. Kearney went out there. People are saying, well, they don't really play anybody. Their strength of schedule is not very good. Listen, I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of teams that aren't going to line up and play those guys one-on-one. Kudos to my Owls over there, that quarterback. Kid went out and did exactly what he was supposed to do. I said it before the season started. If Owls stays focused, this team's going to be very dangerous. I know that they have San Diego High circled at the end of the season. They want to play them and beat them this year. And if Owls continues to play at the level he's playing at right now, they will beat San Diego. So those are some of the kids I want to talk about. Some of the guys that are sitting on my bubble league. Also want to give a big shout out to Patrick Henry. They come out with a W out there at Mount Miguel, beat a Grossmont League team. Maybe JT O'Sullivan, want to know as a head coach, he's going to turn their program around. Who knows? But Isaiah Jennings went on and had 3 interceptions in that game to seal the deal for the Patriots. Good job, Isaiah.
Yeah, wild game out there. Henry jumped out to a 16-0 lead, only to see Mount Miguel come all the way back and take the lead. And then they went out and scored 20 more points on the Matadors to take a commanding lead again. Mount Miguel came back with 2 late touchdowns. They might have just run out of time. I think it was kind of expected, the way the Matadors like to throw that football in the direction the Patriots are going.
So the question is, where are you going to be Friday night?
I'm heading out to the island. I'm going to see Kurt Hines and the Coronado Islanders.
Who they play?
Classical Academy Caymans.
All right, who wins that game?
Well, I think the momentum probably continues for Coronado. Classical has a new coach, an exciting new coach, I think, keeping things good around there. He's been a part of the program, and their great coach left this year to take over another program. But I think they're in good hands right now. But I see the Islanders winning that one.
I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm actually gonna take Classical Academy in that game. I think the Classical Academy's got a couple of dynamic players that, they got to watch that film and make sure they contain those dynamic players at Classical Academy. That team can sneak up on you and beat you if you're not in your A game. With that said, I will be at the opening of the Patrick Henry Patriot Stadium. That renovation has been almost 5 years in the making. Many of you know I coach youth football in this area, and I live in the San Carlos area. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Morris comes in to play Patrick Henry. So, yeah, I'll be there at that game on Friday night. That's actually the City League Game of the Week. Brandon Stone will be covering that game for the City Game of the Week. But I'll be there supporting the San Carlos community and football returning to Patrick Henry High School.
It's really been a mystery, Chris. That whole, the softball field's also taken a long time to get this work done compared to all the other schools that seem to get things done a lot quicker, or maybe other conferences. I don't know. You might have more insight, but I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, last year, it took 3 years for Hilltop to get finished. I think it really determines it, and I don't think this is a district thing. I don't think this is an administration thing. It really comes down to simple business, and I think it's a bad project manager. That's what it comes down to.
Well, we better just leave it at the football before we go off on a tangent. We'll be back next week with more Top Dogs, Top 10. Chris Smith, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks for having me, everyone. You have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday night.
Talk to you later, brother. Good night. And ended.